I'm Mark Hoebee, Paper Mill's producing artistic director. Welcome and thank you for tuning in to Babbling by the Brook. Today, I am so pleased to have as my guest, Broadway star, Tony Award nominee, acclaimed concert soloist, and Paper Mill veteran actress who's appeared here in Guys and Dolls, Miss Saigon, Hello Dolly, and Can Can. Please welcome Kate Baldwin. Hi, Kate. How are you?
I'm well, Mark. How are you?
I'm so happy to see you, and thank you for joining us.
I'm happy to see you too.
You are a shining light in my life. We've known each other for such a long time, and we'll go back, but you've had an incredible career. When I'm just going to name a couple of projects, and we can talk about a variety of them, but Broadway shows, Finian's Rainbow, Big Fish, Dolly with Bet, Full Monty, Thoroughly Modern Millie, Wonderful Town, regional productions of King and I at Chicago Lyric Opera, where I also worked many, many years ago. White Christmas, Henry V, I Do, She Loves Me, Music Man, goes on. And then your relationship with us here at Paper Mill, at least 4 shows, Miss Saigon, Dolly, which we'll talk about in a minute, Guys and Dolls, and most recently Can Can.
That's right. You got it.
Yeah, but we've known each other for a long time.
Yes.
Because we share an alma mater.
Yes.
We
Good
both
old Northwestern.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.
We both went to Northwestern, you many years after I did.
But you came back to teach us, and I remember vividly, you came back to teach us. And now Northwestern is not necessarily known for its dance.
No.
We're known as a really wonderful theater program and a great musical theater sort of certificate program. I'm not sure if it's changed now. I think it might actually be a major now.
It is a major. It's absolutely a major. Yes.
But at the time that you and I were both there, it was still a certificate program.
It was a certificate program when you were there, not when I was there. There
Oh,
was no official musical theater program when I was there. I went back there to teach, I guess.
Which was a huge, plus for us, because here you were, a Fosse guardian, and you were coming to teach us choreography from Sweet Charity. Right. I remember The Rich Man's Frug, and I remember being in, and everybody who was there to take the class was of differing abilities. But you were so kind and generous and energetic and so happy to be there to teach everybody. And I thought, this is the greatest thing ever. When am I ever going to get a Fosse intensive? Because I'm just not that kind of dancer. I was all right, but to get the actual steps from a person who actually did them in front of people was amazing.
It was my great joy to have I still have a relationship with the university, but when Dominic Massimi was running the program, he used to bring me back all the time to do master classes and to work on WAMU, the largest student-run original musical in the country. And I don't know if this was when I was there with you, but one semester I actually taught on campus. I was an adjunct professor. And I always remember you were one of the Kates. There was a group of Kates. It was Kate Baldwin, Kate Schindel,
Yep.
Kate Strobing,
Yep.
Kate Fisher, and Catherine Brunel. But I always, it was always the Kates, one of the Kates.
It was a very popular baby name in the 70s. Very popular baby name. Mm-hmm.
And all of you have gone on to some great careers. Kate Schindel, who was Miss America and President of Equity, and Catherine Brunel, who has worked for us, and Katie Fisher, who has an opera career and everything. But so I knew you as a student, but then we really got to know each other because I was directing a production of Baby at the Marriott Lincolnshire Theater, and you came in to audition, right?
That's right. It was winter, probably March of my senior year. And I saw, or I don't know how I knew, because what was the internet back then?
There wasn't.
Right. So I knew about this production of Baby that was happening at the Marriott Lincolnshire, which was about, half an hour away from campus. And I knew the role of Lizzie. Now, that's the role that sings The Story Goes On, because I'd been in the ensemble of a production of Baby at the Chicago Humanities Festival that fall. They needed actual college kids to sort of fill in with the Chicago stalwarts who were there, like Mary Ernster and Kathy Taylor. who else was in that production? I can't even remember. Oh, Lynn Winterstellar played Pam. So I knew Baby, and I knew that I loved that role and I loved that song, and I would sing it in my dorm room. And I wrangled an audition. I don't know how. I borrowed a friend's car, and I got there, and I sang for you. And then you asked me to come back for a callback, and I borrowed the same friend's car, and it broke down.
Oh, I remember that. Yes, you were late.
I'll never forget it. I broke down right outside of Old Orchard Mall, which, if you know Skokie, Illinois, you know where that is.
Yes.
Old Orchard Mall. And so somebody got out of, it's March, right? And so somebody got out of their car, and we pushed it to the side. I ran across the street to the gas station with my little quarter, called the Marriott, and it was Mary in the office, or Margaret in the office. And I was like, I'm supposed to be there, and my car broke down. And she's like, hold on. And then you said, we'll wait for you. And it was very nice of you to actually wait for me, because I thought, oh, this is it. It's over. I'm done. Yeah. And my friend Pat Mellon got in his car, came and picked me up, and drove me to the Marriott, waited outside in his car. And I came in, I sang for you. Kerry Walker told me I was too tall, and he told me to take off my shoes, which is a theme in my career. And then you take it from there, because I don't know what was happening.
Well, I'll tell you what was happening, because Larry, my husband, partner of many years, was with me then, very anxious, because we were waiting for you to arrive. And he was in the back hallway at the Marriott, which was backstage. And we were supposed to have left like an hour ago. And he had heard all the last final candidates for Lizzie, and you were the last one who came in. And we had the audition. I thought you were fantastic. You were who I wanted to hire. And afterwards we were done. I walked out and I went back, and Larry was back there, and I said, well, what did you think? He goes, I don't know who that last girl was, but she was the one you should hire. And I said, okay, well, that was it. And then you got the role, and we worked together on that production.
Thank you, Larry.
Well, right. Call out to Larry. But that was, I love that show. I still think it's, I had worked on it, a production 10 years earlier at the Marriott that Richard Maltby directed with Liz Calloway right after it closed in New York. And then I directed it with you at the Marriott there, Casey Loop, Jordan Leeds, Kathy Santon, and Paula and John. Yeager and Scrofano. A really brilliant company. Yep. And then I got to direct it again here at Paper Mill in 2003 with a new score, a new company. Just a great show. But
I love that show.
I do too.
I remember that show so well, and it's such a positive story, a life-affirming story. It's so sweet. And I remember getting the job and calling my mom, and first of all, it's calling my parents right out of my senior year in college, and saying, I got a job, all of your money didn't go to waste, and I'm actually going to be paid for the thing that I, went to school for. And she said, well, tell me this, what's it about? And I said, well, I play a college student who wants to be a journalist, and she and her boyfriend get pregnant, and they decide to keep the baby but not get married. And my mom goes, I don't think we're going to invite grandma to this one. Like that. And then she came to see the show, bawled her eyes out, and was like, I should have brought grandma to this one. This is a good one. I like this one. So.
Well, I've met your parents many times.
Yeah, I know.
And I can't remember what show it was, but your mother pulled me aside and said, many years ago, after Baby, backstage at the Marriott, you told me that you thought my daughter was so talented and that she really had what it takes to be a star. And we were at some Broadway theater then. She said, you were right. I said, I didn't do anything. Your daughter has the talent. I just recognized it. But
my mom will talk to anybody in any audience ever about, who's on stage and how they're related.
Listen, she's amazing, and amazing to have that kind of support.
Yeah.
But then our careers went different ways. I eventually wound up here at Paper Mill.
That's right.
You were working in New York, and I was directing a production of Miss Saigon.
That's right.
And I'd gotten permission from Cameron McIntosh to be the first, direct the first proscenium. Interestingly, when he first gave the rights away after the Broadway and national tours and UK production. He only gave it to theaters in the round because he didn't want people to replicate the New York production.
Oh.
So ours, Paper Mills, was the first proscenium production sanctioned by Cameron, and I had to meet with him to get the right to see the show. And when we were casting the show, I can't remember who cast it at that time, but I said, you know who I want to play Ellen? I said, it's Kate Baldwin. I said, that's Ellen. And you were in Thoroughly Modern Millie.
I was, that's right. But I had auditioned for Miss Saigon over the years, national tours, Broadway replacements, all that kind of stuff, and always told that I was too young. And I was, and I sort of had written it off. I was like, oh God, I guess I'll never play this part. And so that when I saw that you were doing it, and we had worked together before and had such a great time, I was like, well, I know I'm in Thoroughly Modern Millie, and we had just won the Tony, and
you were understudying Miss Dorothy.
I was understudying Miss Dorothy. That's right. I was in the original Broadway production and had that dream come true. I also had the realization that I was in the ensemble and that I was dancing a lot, and dancing kind of wasn't what of the three things that I could do, acting, singing, dancing was a distant third. And my feet hurt. And I wanted to do a part. I wanted to do a role. And I wanted to do a role where I got to sing and act. And I wanted to sort of flex my muscles and try something else. And I wanted to grab that part because I didn't know if it would come around again. And doing it with you was just sort of, that was the cherry on the top of the ice cream. So I wanted to so badly to come in and do it. And I remember you saying, well, will you come in and audition for this? And I was like, of course I will. Yes, I will. Yes.
But then you came in, and of course you proved me entirely right. You were brilliant. In my mind, the perfect Ellen. And I said, she's never going to take this. Why would she leave? Millie is going to run for years. She's understudying Miss Dorothy. She'll either take that over in New York or she'll go on the road. I said, let's make the offer, but let's keep looking. And then they said, she's going to do it. I couldn't believe it. I was totally shocked and surprised, but thrilled. and it was a wonderful company. The late Kevin Gray, who was amazing, and Dina Morishita,
so good.
Roxanne Taga, who shared the role.
She's my girl. I love Roxanne.
Both amazing. And Aaron Rainey.
Yep. He left Millie too. We left the Thoroughly Modern Millie together.
I never thought the two of you were going to come. But I thought we're going to offer it to them, but we're going to have to get somebody else. And then Alan Green.
Yes, Alan Green. Love.
And Darren Lee choreographed the show. He had been in the Broadway company, and
that's right. And Zoe Lamb was there too.
Oh, Zoe, yeah. Mm-hmm. But that was a very, very special production for me. Growth as a director, and I just loved that show. And it, was another brick in our relationship, friendship, and that.
Sort of meeting again after another 5 years,
right.
That kind of thing. And for me, it was significant for me too, because it allowed me to break out of one idea of what I had, what things I could do, understudy lead roles and be in the ensemble of a big Broadway show, and then to sort of stretch a little bit more and trust myself a little bit more as an actor. And you always gave me great opportunities to trust myself and to go for something. And your production of Miss Saigon really launched me on that path of sort of reaching a little bit further for that leading lady status. Right after I did your show, I went off to do South Pacific at Arena Stage, and all of a sudden the wheels began to turn.
I came and saw that.
You did, and you came to see Falsettos when we did it in Boston. Like the wheels began to turn in a different way, and it all kind of started to come together for me. And your production of Miss Saigon was what started it all.
Well, it wouldn't have been what it was without you. I have to say that. And speaking about then 5 years later, and I don't know if it was 5 years later, but you came back and earned another leading lady role with me as director when you played Irene Malloy in Hello, Dolly.
And I didn't have to audition.
Yeah.
You just gave me that one. I said, yes, I'll come do this for sure.
Well, I didn't need you to audition. I knew what you could do. And that was a crazy production, so fun. Tova Feldshuh, the one and only Tova, as Dolly, and brilliant in her portrayal of it, and such a leader in the room. You never are going to work with somebody who works as hard as she does.
Absolutely.
She
Bette
gets-
Midler. Bette Midler works as hard as she does, but they are
Right.
cut from the same cloth, and we're playing the same role.
But I wanted to talk about that. So we did Dolly together, and I thought it was a great production, and you were Irene Loy. And then all of a sudden, fast forward, a lot of stuff happened in between. But then there's a huge Broadway revival announced starring Bette Midler. And who's playing Irene Loy?
I got that part.
That's right. Was mine the test case? Did we warm you up for that?
Well, I will say that when I walked into the audition, I thought to myself, they're never going to pick me. I'm too tall, too old. They're not going to want me to do this, whatever. And I often do that. I often walk into a casting director's office and I say, oh, she'd be good at this. Or one of the Kates shows up. I'm like, they want that Kate, this Kate. You know what I mean? Like, I do that a lot, and I probably really shouldn't. So, but I feel like because I had done the show with you, she was in my bones. I knew who Irene Malloy was. Yeah. I had done it. It felt so easy. It felt like putting on like your favorite shirt, because it was just, it was already there. We'd already worked on it. I'd already figured it all out with you.
And what was that experience like? It must have been incredible.
Magical. I mean, just magical from the very beginning. Because Jerry Zaks, as you know,
amazing. Just a moment for Jerry Zaks, because one of the kindest, again, hardest working directors, cares about actors. Just love that man.
And just delights in all of it. Is thrilled with every aspect of it, when it comes to staging a scene, when it comes to putting all the mechanics of a number together, when it comes to crafting a joke, a bit. He is there for it, and to him and watching him do it is a particular delight too, because he enjoys it so much, and that joy is infectious. And so he really imbued his spirit into the rest of the cast, and he creates a room where everybody's supposed to take care of each other, and you're supposed to laugh, and you're supposed to have a good time. He's in charge, and we're all getting on the same train, and he's the conductor of the train, and he makes that very clear. But it's a fun train. So you go along with it, and I just had a great time. I mean, for me, doing Dolly both times became about the foursome, became about Cornelius, Irene, Barnaby, and Minnie Fay. And those, you create a wonderful microcosm. We called ourselves on Broadway, ourselves the Fab Four, and the Pod Squad, because I don't know if you know, Mark, it was the same for your production too. When the foursome is forced to stay inside at Harmonia Gardens and stay behind the curtain, and they can't go anywhere or make any noise because the title number is happening and Dolly is coming down the stairs and singing the song, you got to figure out a way to entertain yourself, because you're in there for like 8 minutes. It's a long time. That's
right. I'd forgotten about that. But and I saw that production. You were unbelievable. Such a joy for me to watch you do it. I actually danced in it at the Marriott Lincolnshire. I was in Hello Dolly there, starring Aileen Robertson. Then I directed you in it at Paper Mill, and then I saw it on Broadway. And I never saw the Carol Channing version. I never saw her live. I'd seen the video of it. But after I left that performance, and you invited me backstage into your dressing room. You were so kind. We had a great moment. But I thought, I don't ever need to see this show again, because I can't imagine it any better. But do you remember the story you told me about the first time Bette got her ovation?
Oh, well, yes. I remember being in, I remember how my reaction to it, because she walked on stage and the whole place went berserk. And it was as though we were at a football game, and somebody had just scored a touchdown. That's the thing I can liken it to. It was like sports fans going crazy, because I'd never experienced that in a Broadway house. I'd experienced that at the end of a number, but not when just somebody appears. And I would time her ovations. I would time them and see how long they went. She didn't want them to go on for very long, so she would cut it off at like a 45-second mark. But
45 seconds, that's a long time. But I
But to
remember you
her,
told me,
it was too long. She didn't like that. She wanted to get along. She wanted to get on with everything. She wanted the show to start going, and she was the engine for it. She, she was the motor, so she had to keep it going. But we were in previews, and we were going to tinker with a little lighting thing here and tinker with a little lighting thing there, because who needs to rewrite Hello Dolly? Nobody. And we were in the wings, and we're in our sweatpants and our body mics, and just like waiting around for all the kind of stuff. And I said, Bet, that reaction last night, I was like, I've never heard anything like it. And she was like, oh, really? And I was like, oh God, you're Bette Midler. I forgot. You get this kind of reaction wherever you go.
right, you played a 65,000 people in an arena. Right. Not a big, but I thought of that too. I thought that's funny. But how great, and she must appreciate that too, because in the Schubert Theater and the closeness of the audience, and everybody who saw that just loved her and loved you and Gavin and that whole group. It was amazing.
Well, but I'll say that too. Gavin and I went up to the balcony during tech, when they were teching before the parade passes by, which is her the final number of the first act, and it was just Bette on stage, and it was just her face. Like they had it lit so that you saw her face, and you even in the audience, that far away in the balcony, it felt as though she was singing straight to you, that you were best friends, and that she was doing this just for you. And she has that quality and that warmth that is so integral to playing that role, first of all, and that lets you know, oh, here's the star that she is. I understand, all of it now, being on the other side.
Right. She also wasn't afraid to chew a little scenery, which you also need for that role. She was brilliant. But, so we've talked a little bit about recreating roles, Ellen, Lizzie, Irene Malloy, but you've also done a fair share. I mean, your big break, really, I think, in New York was Finian's Rainbow.
Oh, yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
You've created roles, too, in Big Fish and Giant, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's a different experience, right? Talk about that a little bit. And another moment, let's take a moment for Susan Stroman Stroh.
Yeah.
Good friend of Paper Mill and Broadway.
Yes. Yeah, and she was our director on Big Fish, and
a singular force, I think, in the world of musical theater. I just love her. But
I do too.
What's that like? Irene Malloy, you say there was a road already set. You'd already sewn the coat with me. You put it back on. But Big Fish, starting from nothing, right?
Yeah, well, actually, starting with the novel Big Fish by Daniel Wallace. I read all those stories. It's all those chapters. I think of them as all those chapters in that book are very, very small. And Daniel Wallace wrote it while his child was only 2 years old, he told me, because he would write it when the kid was napping. He's like, I would go into the laundry room, throw in a load of laundry, right, and hear that I can't remember if his son or daughter woke up and have to go back, and that's how long the chapter would be. So
however long the child napped, that was the length of the chapter.
That's right. So I think of them as little stories, or the story of Edward Bloom and the love of his life, Sandra Bloom. So I had that to go on, and then we were fortunate enough to have the person who wrote both the screenplay was the person who also wrote the book to our musical. His name is John August. And to have his wealth of information and his experience with the story and how he was framing it to bring it to life in a musical. And then I had Andrew Lippa. I don't know if you're friends with Andrew Lippa, but he is also a very focused, and he has specific ideas about what he wants from a character. And so we all work together. And I think what's different about creating a role like that is that you have all these minds, all these writers coming to you, and you have to sort of assimilate what everybody needs, check the box for everybody's character needs and wants, and how you fit into that story is something that Stroh helps with, how we're all telling the story together.
And also what I think is interesting about that too is, and I've seen it as we've birthed some new musicals, is the creators come together. Sometimes there's readings, there's other workshops, versions of getting the show, but it's that first production where it really comes to life. And in the rehearsal room, it's on the page, the music is, in a shape, but the role gets tailored in a lot of ways to you.
Yeah, that's right. What you're good at.
Right. And so that's why, certain roles are so aligned with certain performers because you add that extra element that the creators don't have, which is Kate Baldwin in
Right.
the role, right?
Right.
And then you also building a relationship. You had a pretty good leading man to play opposite.
Ah, Norb. Yeah.
Norbert Leo Butz. I mean, Norbert Leo, an amazing talent.
Yeah.
And that relationship must also feed the show and the writers and how they shape things.
Yeah, and I think we were chosen for specifically for what we bring. You know, he is this, I call him the Energizer Bunny. He never stops. Like he's you know, he's full of energy, he's full of ideas. He's always he would throw dance moves into everything, and you know, he and for me, I was, you know, the sort of the still waters run deep kind of
the grounding force.
Yeah, the grounding force to him, the yin and the yang. And so I think that's why we were chosen, because of those qualities that we just naturally possess. Also, we really like each other and think each other are hilarious. And it was my birthday a couple months ago, and he drove by in his car and he sang happy birthday to me in made up German. So like, you know, there's that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And that is the basis of that the relationship between those two characters anyway, right? He's the dreamer, he's the not crazy, but the crazy inventor, constantly scheming and thinking and she is the grounding force. She is the Mother Earth, you know, all of those things. And then Giant too. Talk about Giant.
Yeah, Giant. Oh God,
Giant's such a giant project, giant film, iconic characters from the screen, but then you're doing this musical stage version of it.
Yeah, and that was an instance where I was very careful to not watch the movie and watch, you know, 19-year-old Elizabeth Taylor on a screen and get myself all worked up about like, well, I can't do that, obviously. But again, there's a source material. There's that Edna Ferber novel that it comes from, and I went through that and I earmarked pages where not only Leslie was described, but her relationship with Bick, her husband, was described, and trying to sort of wrestle all of those things into a characterization was helped by Michael John's music, Michael John's lyrics, and then a book by Sybil Pearson, who also wrote Baby.
Oh, right, of course. Yes, Sybil, right.
Yeah, and then Michael Greif. Michael Greif was really instrumental in guiding us, in steering us, in making sure the writers were telling the story they set out to tell. I remember we were at a tryout. We did a tryout in Dallas before we came into New York at the Public Theater. And I had this gorgeous song at the end of Act 1 that was my favorite song in the show. But at the end of Act 1, it was about the hour 35, hour 40 mark. And you could see people in the audience looking at the program or shifting in their seats or like looking at their watches or like, you know, doing a lot of that. And even though I was singing my most favorite song, they weren't hearing it. And I'll always remember at intermission once, Greif showing up at my dressing room door, followed by Michael John, followed by Sybil. They all came in and I said, okay, what are you cutting? What's gone? And Michael very gently and very kindly said, I think we've got to let go of a stranger. And I said, sure. I said, well, they don't want to hear it. So I don't want to, there's nothing worse than singing something that means a lot to you and that, you know, you find extremely poignant and perfect, and just nobody wants to hear it. That's the worst. And Michael John still can't get over it to this day, that I was just like, okay. Because, you know.
You're the one who has to be out there. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, you know, it really is a conversation between the actors and what's happening on stage and the audience. And if you're not in a conversation, you can't talk to people who aren't listening, right? And like even the reaction for Bet, that was an acknowledgement of her incredible career. But throughout that whole show of Dolly, it's a back and forth, every show, right? It's a back and forth between what's happening with the actors and the audience. And if that bond is broken for whatever reason, it's hard to pick that ball back up. It's not, it's hard to get things started again. You know, it's funny how small the theater world is, you know, the community. We work so many hours together. We call a lot of our companies family, but they really are because you live together. You get to know each other. I feel in many
And
ways.
you're forced to create a family. You're forced to say, okay, this person is my husband, this person is my son, this person is my daughter. You know, this is
On
my
stage,
yeah.
and then backstage, you live that.
Yeah. It's
You
true.
live with them.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud because I feel like, well, I don't want to say papa, maybe uncle to you. I'm not old enough to be your dad, but I've watched you grow up.
I know.
I met you in college, directed you, worked with you, watched you, blossom into an incredible performer, know you as a friend and a mother. You came back to us and did Can as
That's right.
Home, which is another, just beautiful production. You were stunning. And
Oh, those costumes. I still dream about those costumes. They were so good.
Spectacular.
Oh my gosh, those were Ann Hould Ward designs. And I first fell in love with her when she did Into the Woods. Remember that Into the Woods?
Yes.
The original. Anyway, so here she was fitting dresses on me. And I had one that was a bathrobe that then two guys were supposed to come by holding a poster of me in a dress. And then I magically pulled a cord, and then the bathrobe went away and it unfurled into this gorgeous evening gown.
Right. I remember that. I also remember the red, white, and blue outfit, which also did a trick.
Yes.
Can't remember which number that was. You came through a curtain, or they pulled something off you.
They did.
From behind a curtain, and all of a sudden you were kind of half dressed in that. And the brilliant David Lee.
Oh, I love David Lee so much.
What a wonderful man, so kind,
Yep.
and has been so generous to Paper Mill in supporting us financially. He's still a donor, but also just as a vocal proponent for the work we do here. That was a beautiful production. And Jason Daniely.
So great. We had such a good time.
And Greg Hildreth. And
so funny. And Michael Barres. It was just a dreamy group of people. And Megan Sikora, who is
an incredible choreography by Patty Colombo.
Amazing.
So athletic, but she really charged and brought the energy even higher in that production. It was, I think, one of the best dance productions I've ever seen, not only on the Paper Mill stage, anywhere.
Yeah, what they were doing was incredible. The acrobatics, and then just the sheer technical aspects of all the beautiful dancing was just stunning, just so stunning. I mean, you visit that ladies' dressing room before a half hour, everybody's sitting on an ice pack. It smells like Ben Gay. Like they were just popping Advil, just trying to, that was a whole production in and of itself.
I remember those days. Advil in the dressing room, big buckets of it. Yeah. It was great. And you were
and those songs. Steve Orich did those orchestrations and reimagined those songs. I'll never forget. Jason had a song, "It's All Right with Me," and it was completely reimagined. I think maybe that was David Lee's idea to make it a drunken moment for him, where he was just at his wit's end, And I thought that was a really cool invention.
And David had rewritten the book too.
Right.
Because I had directed Can at the Sacramento Music Circus way long time ago when it was still under a tent. And the book was, the songs are great. Cole Porter, right? Beautiful song. But the book was And so when we were approached with this project to do this new version of it, I was a little wary. And then when I read the book and David Lee talked about it, I was all on board. And it's definitely a period piece about that moment in French history, but he had rewritten it in a much more contemporary way.
Well, he put the focus on the love story, that Aristide and Pistache belonged together and never fell out of love with one another. And it's that rekindling of a childhood romance that really was the through line that made it work much, much better.
And it worked beautifully.
Yeah, that's David.
I love you. I thank you for sharing this time with us. And we need to find another project to work on together here at Paper Mill.
You're on.
I'll direct it, you star, and Graham can be your leading man.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, we'll figure that out. Love you.
Love you. Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us. Come back next week for more Babbling by the Brook, when we go behind the scenes to explore the casting process with my friend, casting director Rebecca Scholl. See you then.